Do you want to learn how to deadlift without back pain? I hope you do, because I really want to teach you. I'm Dr. Morgan Riggins. I'm a physical therapist at OPAL Movement Therapy, and today we're going to break down why is it so common that people have back pain during or after deadlifts. What are some of the common errors when deadlifting that can lead to back pain during or after, and how do we correct them, right? So unfortunately, a lot of people can experience discomfort in the low back region with deadlifts, and it's almost been normalized, but I can assure you it's not normal. So even if you're like, man, my back is tight, but I did deadlifts yesterday, I can assure you that even though it's common and you might have other people in the gym or people in your workout class who are feeling the same things, it's not normal, and we should be able to do heavy deadlifts without back pain or back tightness or discomfort during the exercise and after. And unfortunately, some people maybe have had to stop deadlifting altogether because of back pain, and they're scared it might hurt their back, when in reality, a deadlift is a fantastic full body compound movement that can prevent low back pain problems if done well, right? But of course, if pain during a deadlift or after is impeding your ability to do it, then it's not helpful. So today we're going to break down kind of how to do it well, what are some of the most common errors, and what to start working on. One of the reasons why deadlifts is so challenging is because it's a large range of motion. A deadlift is when you're going to hinge at the hips, bend at the knees and ankles, and pick something all the way up off the ground. And that's a large range of motion. And then we add in weight, right? Like if I'm just going to, bend down, pick up a pen, that's not a big deal. But to then go all the way down towards the ground and pull something heavy, that is going to be significantly more challenging. And the tricky part is that I really need my whole body to contribute to the movement equally, but sometimes if a certain area is not pulling its weight, I may borrow from the low back. And one of the reasons why the low back is more vulnerable in a deadlift is because our low back moves extremely well. We've got tons of flexion, lots of extension, side bending. Our back is designed to move really well. We have a lot of range of motion, but we also need a lot of stability, strength, and control in a movement like a deadlift. When I go to pick up, if I'm going to tie my shoe, it's fine that my back is rounding and curving and twisting. That's not a big deal. But under increased load, we don't want the spine to make those dynamic changes. Why? Because when I add load, I want all the vertebrae in my spine to bear that load equally. And so I need to be moving through the spine in a uniform fashion where I have control and awareness at each level. If I go to pick up this bar to do a deadlift and I, hinge and I move excessively at one area of the spine, and then I go to pick it up and I crank out of that one area, all of that load is concentrating to one area of the spine, as opposed to everything being nice and stable and the spine being like a rigid lever for which my arms and my legs get to produce force from. So when we go to pick up heavy things, we want to disperse that load equally amongst the spine. And a lot of times it's helpful if the spine is in that rigid neutral spine position. For most of us, that means it's going to be straight with maybe a little bit of a curvature in the low back, right? And what we find is that because our spine moves really well, it often moves just a little too much during a deadlift. And because a lot of us spend time sitting for our desk, for our job, driving, our hips get tight and we don't have quite as much awareness in this region. So sometimes when our hips aren't performing as well on a deadlift, we'll borrow from the low back. So I'm going to break down the components of an optimal deadlift, and then I'm going to show you where we find errors, and then we'll address it. So with the deadlift, a traditional conventional deadlift pulling from the ground, my feet are about hip width apart, and I'm standing relatively close to the bar because I want to keep it close to my center of mass. I am going to approach it kind of slow motion because it's going to help you understand the mechanics, but the deadlift is basically a hip hinge where I'm hinging at the hip, my spine is staying nice and straight, and then obviously I can't get to the bar yet, so I have to involve knee movement and ankle movement. So my knees and my ankles bend to get to the rest of it, okay? And then to come up, I'm going to just be unbending at the hip, knee, and ankle to return to standing. And so I'm hinging at the hip, knees and ankles are bending, pushing the ground away to stand up. It really is a full body movement because I'm using my upper body to stabilize the bar, my core is on, My glutes and hamstrings are stretching on the way down. My ankles, my calves, everything is in their largest range of motion here. And then to stand up, my leg muscles are going to shorten and propel me up to standing. And so my back muscles, my back extensors are working to keep my spine nice and rigid and stable, but they're not doing the lifting. They're not doing the majority of the work, which is why I don't feel a lot of work there. I really feel like my core, my upper body, and my legs are doing the lifting, and that's what we want, right? Now, the common errors we find is if we don't know how to optimize that hip movement and then access the knee and the ankle, it's a long way down, so we might borrow that movement from the back. So even though I'm not picking it up yet, oftentimes, we might get down here like this, and then I'm going to adjust, but I might not know exactly where I am. And if I don't know how to access my hip, I might try to initiate to return to standing by lifting, like this, lifting with the back and then using my legs. Or on the way down, I might initiate with my back and then use my legs. So in that motion, I'm leading with the back. And if I do it slower without the bar, it might look like this, where my hips are staying still, but I'm letting the bar pull me forward. Eventually my butt gets involved. Then I'm getting down there. I'm pulling with my back and then pushing with my legs. With enough repetition, volume, or load, that may overload that area of the back because it's moving more than it needs to. The other things we see is sometimes instead of borrowing motion from the back, we will get it from the knees and the ankles. And so isolating hip movement is difficult. And a lot of times when we haven't kind of learned how to optimize this, what we'll see is the shins just track back like this. And so what this looks like is when people send their hips back, their shins go with it, and then the bar ends up much further in front. All of my weight is in my heels. My toes are lifting up a little bit. So when I watch people deadlift, I can tell that they're skipping the hip component and trying to rely on just slamming the knees back and rocking into the heels. And the big thing I see is I'll see the angle of their shin lean backwards like this. And then I'll also see their toes lift up. So sometimes I can see it from across the room, but it might look like this where they're not accessing the hip completely, so they're slamming this back and then coming down and looking like this. Which, when I rock onto my heels and I slam my shins back, you can't help it. Your body perceives a loss in balance and my back muscles tighten up and they want to pull me into extension. So when I add load to that, especially on the way down, it's going to encourage me to want to lift with my back instead of pushing with my legs to come up to standing. And that's why sometimes it can start out small, where it's like, oh, my back's just a little tight after I deadlift. But then you go up in volume or you go up in weight, and then there's that workout where you're like, oh yeah, my back is really not happy. I think I need to go see someone about this. My goal is that we can start doing deadlifts well from the beginning. But in order to do so, we need to learn when is it appropriate to move through the back, through the hips, knees, ankles. And so the biggest thing is I need to have weight through the middle of my foot. If I have all my weight on my heels, it's inevitable. At a certain point, I will start to extend or curve more through the low back. So we've got to get good at keeping the weight in the middle of the foot. And then we have to learn how to isolate the hip hinge. And truthfully, most of our clients who come to us and deadlifts are painful, we can't start with a full deadlift. We have to just start with the pieces that make a deadlift. So that's what we're going to talk through right now. In order to do the deadlift, first I need to learn, well, how do I keep my spine still, right? Like in this position, when I hip hinge, my spine needs to stay in neutral. If every time I try to hip hinge, I curve my back, then I haven't learned how to do that yet. So sometimes we need to work on, okay, how can my abs keep my back straight as I learn how to isolate the hip spinning in the socket to do the hinge? So that's the first piece, keeping the spine straight when we're gonna add load to it, because we don't want it spontaneously curving or rounding when we pick up the heavy load. The next step is, now that I've learned how to stabilize the spine, how do I learn how to hinge at the hip without cheating from the back? See, my hips are done moving, but this is all back movement here. And so I have to learn, okay, I'm hinging at the hip, and then I'm done. At this point in the deadlift, I would need to bend my knees and ankles to get lower, but a lot of times we will then borrow that from the back. And when I watch people, I'll see a little wrinkle in their shirt because they're borrowing motion from the back to get all the way to the ground. So we have to learn how to isolate that hip hinge, and that can be a tall order going all the way to the ground. So we just might need to start with, how do I hinge at the hips without moving the back? And notice how straight my shins are staying. If I'm slamming back, that's gonna influence the deadlift as well. So you might have to learn, how do I keep my shins still? And this, what I'm doing right now, is truly an RDL. A Romanian deadlift is different than a deadlift because I'm not going all the way to the ground. So I like to practice the hip hinge without weight, and then we apply dumbbells to it. And I like dumbbells because it's gonna help with my grip when I work up to the bar for the barbell deadlift. But now I'm just gonna practice doing an RDL where I'm only moving as far as my hips can move. So I'm hinging at the hips, and then to come back up, I'm not lifting with the back, I'm pushing the ground away to return to standing. And so I need to get good at this before I go all the way to the ground with a barbell deadlift. And truthfully, once I get good at this, I like people to work up to like 15, 20-pound dumbbells, because most of our barbells are somewhere between 33 and 45 pounds. So you need to feel good moving this amount of load. And then I would be doing just a barbell RDL, right? A barbell RDL would be where I would stop when my hip is done. Typically for most of us, that's right in front of the knee. And then I'm pushing the ground away to return to standing. All this time I'm checking in, am I feeling the work happening in my legs and not in my lower back? If you feel it in your lower back, it's because you're using it and you're using it too much. So that tells us we need to go back a level and review. If it is going well, once you've mastered dumbbell RDLs and barbell RDLs with some load, then we can apply to the deadlift. And deadlifts are super functional because we need to pick stuff up off the ground. So we all need to know how to do them well. And so now when I approach the bar, the big thing is I'm gonna keep my weight in the middle of my foot, and so I need the bar nice and close to me. If it's too far away, then I can do a beautiful hinge, I can bend at the knee and ankle, but when I reach forward, I'm gonna be tempted to pull and extend through my back. So I want that bar right over the middle of my foot, and then I like to practice a good deadlift mechanic before I even pick up the bar. I'm gonna think about, okay, my spine is nice and neutral, my abs are active, I'm hinging at the hip, I'm intentionally bending at the knee and the ankle. That's how I get that full range. Now in this position, I'm not gonna lift with my back. Instead, my abs are on. I'm thinking about pulling the bar apart, and I'm pushing the ground away from me. It's kind of like a leg press machine. On the way down, I'm thinking about allowing my hips to go back, head to go forward, and then I bend at the knee and the ankle, and then I push the ground away. This is very different. I actually think we should rename them to dead push, because I'm really just here at a dead stop, and then I'm pushing the ground away. It's very different than trying to dead lift and pull with my back. And the cool part is when you do it right, your low back feels great, and you're training all of these muscles that help support the low back and other movements. So I love this concept, and I would love to get everybody deadlifting and getting stronger at a level that works well for them without back pain. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments. We'll happily answer them. And then if you like this video, hit subscribe. We post every week on YouTube. Also, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. We post daily there on similar topics, and we love providing resources to you. So if you want to learn about something new, just ask and we'll put something together.